In Houston and along the Texas coast where Hurricane Harvey struck last month, only 20% of residents had current flood insurance policies. And once Hurricane Irma passes through Florida, there will be renewed conversations about who pays to rebuild. As Reuters reported this week, there's a small private insurance market there that may offer an example of what's to come. Suzanne Barlyn of Reuters is the reporter on that story. She joins me now. So let's talk a little bit about how many of the people, when we see these storm surge maps, we see the flooding that Florida is about to expect, how many of the people in Florida are ready for this from an insurance perspective?
Florida has the largest percentage of NFIP policies in the entire NFIP system.
That's the National Flood Insurance Program.
Yes, There are 1.7 million NFIP policies in Florida. It's about 35% of the entire NFIP system. There are, however, a small number of policies now that are cropping up as part of a private flood insurance system that insurers and regulators in the state would like to see increase.
Is there a need here? Is there a gap between what the National Flood Insurance Program will cover and people that are kind of still at risk but can't qualify for this?
Flood insurance is a huge debate in Congress right now. It's a huge debate among state regulators, especially in the run-up to September 30th, which was the date that the NFIP authorization was to expire. On Friday, President Trump extended that for another 3 months. And one of the options on the table is to allow more private insurance companies to write flood insurance so that the NFIP would not be saddled with huge debts such as those that came about in the wake of Hurricanes Katrina and Hurricane Sandy.
So is there a concern here that the flood insurance market could look a little like the healthcare market? I mean, is this the tension between whether or not there's a mandate that exists and how private insurers can compete with the NFIP?
It is a concern. One of the issues that we're seeing right now with the flood insurance market is so many homeowners are required to have NFIP coverage as a condition of their mortgage. The concern that critics of private flood insurance have is that allowing too many private insurers into the area and loosening those restrictions and allowing private flood insurers to meet the requirements for obtaining mortgages would leave the NFIP with riskier properties and premiums that the NFIP subsidizes while the private insurers pick off the better risks for themselves.
One of the things that we see after these natural disasters is kind of a national conversation saying, should we be backing this coastal, beautiful house, but you're going to rebuild it at kind of our expense? Maybe you shouldn't have built there in the first place.
It's a debate that has brought together the most polar opposites that you can imagine in Washington, all advocating to reform the system. But each of those organizations wants a little piece of something different.
All right, Suzanne Barlyn of Reuters. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.